Welcome back, dear friends. I've been a little remiss over the last few days because I've been happily getting on with Victoria the Singing Automaton's house and forgetting to make any videos or anything. So I thought I'd give you a little update before I do too much more. Let me show you what I've been doing. I have to say, I'm absolutely thrilled with it. As I said in the last video, I've never tried this sort of thing with having thin laser engraved ply glued onto thicker ply. I think it looks very pleasant. So there's the inside. You can't really catch the shine, but it's all polished and stained, and I'm pleased to have stained it because it's more in keeping with the machines. I know the when it was really pale ply, it did look quite nice, but it just wasn't quite right for steampunk. So we've got it nice and shiny and polished, and we've also got the speakers covered up with that napkin that I found in the washroom, the box room with the washing machine in it, lying on the floor. So I had to actually find the iron, which was on a shelf in here, so I could iron it nicely before gluing it all in, and that does look very good. I'm very pleased with that. And oh, nice shiny fabric. So the speakers are hidden behind there and there. I've now dented it. Oh well. The outside. Let me try and catch the light some. Oh yeah, a little bit there. You can sort of see the reflections. So it's quite nice and shiny, and I'm very pleased with that. And then the backs come up nicely as well, which obviously houses the speakers, so that all the vibrations, sound waves coming out the back of the speakers can't escape and mix with the sound waves coming out of the front of the speakers, because if they did, they'd cancel this out. So you want to hide them away somewhere. So that's what I've done. And then at the bottom, last time I was mentioning, because if you remember, if you did watch the last video, I was planning to put the speakers here and here, and then decided actually because the backs need to be covered up to keep the sound waves in, I'd have to have some sort of fixing here, a box or something or other, and then it wouldn't allow any ventilation in, which was the whole idea. So I ended up having to put this through the dishwasher because it was filthy, but it's brass, very, very, very fine brass mesh, which looks lovely. And a top tip, if you do have a piece of very, very, very fine mesh made of brass that someone has put ink or paint on it, the best way to get rid of it, forget solvents, forget bleach, put it in the dishwasher. Works a treat. So I finally managed to get that clean, and that's lovely. I think the colour looks nice. I was experimenting with stainless steel mesh, but it just too harsh. And then I thought, well, here's the window, so I built the window into the middle. There's my shirt and finger reflection, and put some of that self-adhesive lead around the outside. So that is where some sort of exciting steampunk mechanism is going to be whizzing round doing things whenever she's operating. That's my holiday project. Where's my finger gone? Now I've got Victoria mounted here, and I just cut a hole in that, and again polished and stained and polished, so all the wires come out underneath, and then that fits really nicely into the top. Now obviously I really am desperate to get her installed in her new home, because I just want to see it and it looks lovely. But practicalities. The Arduino Mega wires and exciting things is situated there, and that's what actually sets all the motors and gets the ukulele to play and pluck and time and everything else. And that's requesting the music data through the wonderful magic of serial communication, which I still don't half understand, but have managed to get working. Ask the Teensy for all the data that's stored on a little SD card, and that sends the numbers back to play the ukulele. So that is all that needs to go in Victoria's cabinet, her house, because that's going to control. That's got the recording and all the filters, the audio filters, to make her sing and control her mouth, and I can add other bits and pieces to control her eyes from the incredible, the wonderful, the most exciting person sensor that I was rambling on about last time. Oh, I just can't wait. But obviously before I can get that wired up and programmed, I need to actually get it wired up, so to speak. So that's why I'm working on this at the moment. So that's going to connect via the I2C communication link. Oh, this is getting terribly complicated. To the Teensy, etc, etc. So the ukulele machine gets a 12 volt supply, and that's got its 7805. If you remember, I made the heatsink out of some nice brass handles. That then provides all the other bits and pieces, the logic and stuff, with the 5 volts. The 12 volts is just used to run the powerful stepper motors. That's right. So Victoria is just going to receive 12 volts. I think it's better. It's going to be more reliable with which to power all her bits and pieces. I'm enjoying making stuff so much, I don't think I'm ready to sit and start working out how to fix little circuit boards down. And also we're going away for 2 weeks holiday, which is very exciting, at the end of this week. So I haven't been able to order all the connectors and other circuits I need anyway. So I found a new thing to do. Let's talk heat sinks. Now here's a 7805. It's a voltage regulator. It takes in 12, well, I'm going to feed it with 12 volts and I'm going to get 5 volts out, which is what's required for all of Victoria's servo motors, stepper motors and the Teensy. So that's nice, and the amplifier, coincidentally. But what it does, and I know there are more efficient ways of achieving such things, but I've used these for years. They've been around for donkey's years. They turn the excess electrotrickery sort of into heat. So you need some way to dissipate the heat. Now, as I said in a previous video where I talked about heat sinks, this is a modern heat sink. It's made of aluminium, it's painted black so it radiates heat nicely, and there's an hole in the middle in which to fix the aforesaid whatever it is that you want cooling. But that's ugly. Now I was considering using this and thinking, why not just fix that inside her enclosure behind one of the air vents? But you'd see it through the air vent, and it just, there's no way that that's Victorian styling. Absolutely no way. Star Wars, perhaps, sort of, I don't know. Not steampunk. So I remembered I had a piece of brass. Now it's been sitting around for ages because it's quite thick, and I haven't had any use for it whatsoever. And I thought, brass. So I'm really keen. I've been thinking about the aesthetics of this, and I don't want to muck up the sides. Come on, catch the light. I don't want to muck up the sides by putting anything in them. So I'm going to put it on the back, and I'm going to use this as a heat sink. I'm going to fix that in the centre of that, and I'm going to fix that onto the back with a couple of little brass spacers. I think it'll look lovely, and it'll also radiate plenty of heat because it's big. And now what I'm doing, because obviously I'm trying to make this little bit of the project last as long as possible, I'm making a little wooden cover that's going to cover the centre bit where the 7805 is, to hide the wires and the fact there's something unorthodox underneath. That's very exciting. I'm going to get on with it and I'll get back to you. Oh, and you can see the backs of the speakers now, the back's off, which is very handy because, you know, the wires can go down inside as well. Plus, I need to work out where to put the lovely, delightful person sensor. And I think, I'm currently thinking about having a nice big engraved sign over the top, a bit like the Is It Time for Tea machine, possibly. Hopefully with that hidden behind an eye, the dot of an eye. So it's really nice high up, it can see everyone, and you can't see it, which is always good for a laugh. Who would have thought heat sinks could be so exciting? I'm very pleased with that. That's come out really nice. I like the unusual look of it. That little gap around there, so there's plenty of airflow. You can't see the 7805. It's got its little brass supports there, so again, have a closely look at these things, and this is what I love about designing steampunk machines. Have a closely look, you see little details and things that really are nice. So yeah, pleased with that, and that should easily dissipate enough heat. Right, apologies for the delay, dear friends, in finishing or getting on with this video. It's 3 weeks since we went to the beautiful Isle of Wight off the south coast of the UK for our 2-week holiday. Lovely. And we managed to bring back some lovely memories, lots and lots of rain-drenched clothes, and the flu. So I have spent the last week struggling to take the dog for a walk and then just collapsing. Absolutely exhausted. This is the first day, this is Saturday after we got back, a week after we got back, that I have actually taken the dog for a walk, had some lunch, and I'm still standing, which is really exciting because it now means I can get on with what I've been planning for so long, Victoria the singing automaton. Now, this is what I've just done. I've dismantled her from the base. Now, originally, I was using a stepper motor, like this one. I'm quite pleased, actually, with all this design work and everything, how it all fits together and all. And then that gear there turned this. And there's a little magnet glued somewhere in there and a reed switch glued there, so it knows where to go back to zero. Now, the problem with that is this isn't very fast, and I want it faster, or to be able to control the speed. Also, when you first switch it on, it has to find zero, so it has to slowly go back, click, and then come forward. I'm going to replace that with a servo motor. I've taken the executive decision to do that because the next plan, or one of the future plans, if I ever get this finished, is to create a smaller version of an automaton that can follow you using one of those people sensors, hopefully. So many things to do. And I've decided that I'm just going to use servo motors. Oh, the other reason, the main reason in fact, is the Teensy, beep, 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 oh, can't even do that anymore. The Teensy doesn't have nearly as many outputs as the Mega, obviously, the Arduino Mega. It's got a limited number, and I've found that lots of them are used to communicate with the little soundboard that sits on top of it there. So I'm very limited. Luckily, it looks like, from what I can remember, practically every in-out pin on the Teensy can be set to be a pulse width modulated output, which means it can run a servo motor. That's it. Oh, luckily, I even found I had two lovely servo motors. These are quite high power ones, and they've got metal gears and proper bearings. So I'm going to have one that's going to rotate the head left and right, and another one because there's a stepper motor somewhere buried inside her neck, which turns a similar sort of gear here system, and you can hear the sort of the clicking of the switch that it has to find when it starts up. So I'm going to replace that one as well. So that's job A. Get all that done, and then I'll get back to you. I have to say, it is so exciting and enjoyable and thrilling to actually have the energy to be getting on with this. There is nothing worse than just collapsing in a state of exhaustion and then just having to watch YouTube videos or something all day, just hoping you're going to be on the mend soon. I'm absolutely thrilled because obviously all the normal sort of blokey thoughts go through your head when you're poorly, you know, this is it now, this is the final one. So it's always ever so exciting when you actually start getting better, which, fingers crossed, I am. I did do quite a lot of thinking on holiday, as you know, which I enjoy, and came up with this sort of idea where it's going to have a cube with lots of moving parts, a bit like the Is It Time for Tea machine, that is going to fix and hang underneath her, all mounted on the lovely Lazy Susan ball bearing thing, whatever, bearing. And underneath it's going to have one of those things on the front, a bit like the Is It Time for Tea machine, reminiscent of that famous drawing automaton, gears and things moving, and then the servo motor, one in the middle at the centre to twist the whole thing, and another one further up to move her head up and down, hoping that the noise from the servo motors down here will be masked because they're hidden away inside the box. And then a few little side drawings and things. I didn't do too much because obviously I didn't know the actual dimensions because I didn't take them away with me. But it's nice to have things to think about. So I will now get on and start. I'm going to start at the top. Very best place to start. Time for an update, a well-earned update. Now on Saturday I was full of the joys of spring. I actually felt better, took the dog for a walk and still had enough energy to get on and start, as you know, the next part of the project, Victoria. And then I was absolutely thrilled to bits. Sunday, however, I managed to take the dog for a walk and then had to spend all afternoon in bed asleep. It's absolutely ridiculous. I hate this fluey, nasty thing. It's horrible. But today I've managed to actually take the dog for a walk I only had a little quick nap at lunchtime, but I managed to stay awake the rest of the day. This is what I've managed to get done. I can't tell you, I've been planning this since I went on holiday 3 weeks ago. So, let me show you. Look, it's only taken 3 weeks, but I managed, look. Oh, isn't that lovely, the Lazy Susan bearing? And I've got the top parts, and I've designed it so as it turns, the furthest bit that sticks out in the corners will still miss the front of the enclosure. That's lovely. I mean, it's strange because as well as feeling absolutely, you know, achy and tired, physically tired, my brain is a muscle. It really just hasn't been working properly. So I had to mark this out, cut it 3 times to get the holes in the right place and to get it fitted. Finally got it done. So that's nice. So all this is going to hang underneath. Oh, that's so exciting. So anyway, I've decided to use one of these solar motors to drive all these bits and pieces, and that fits in there with a little clamp. Isn't that beautiful? That's going to turn one of these 3D printed pulleys and gears from the motorised Kraken gauge kit. That's right. It's going to go there. And the great thing about that is that having a drive belt from this 2mm diameter spindle onto that really does slow it down an awful lot and obviously increase the power. And I've got that turning that and that's turning that. I will assemble it and show you. This is all so exciting. I mean, just the fact I'm still standing and I've still got energy to do this and feel like I can do it. So I've tapped holes to fix things in. It's an absolute joy, I tells you. At last, look at that. It's running off 3 of our very best velts. And that's lovely. I'm not going to spray any of it. When I made the Is It Time for Tea machine, I made it all first before I sprayed anything. That's just lovely. Look at that, all the different speeds and everything. And obviously, because this is slowed down so much, that it's got an awful lot of torque on it, which is great and goes nice and slowly, which is just what we need. Oh, and the other thing I meant to say, the great thing about using a rubber drive belt is the noise. Originally I designed the Kraken gauge to have a small gear, and it was so noisy because it's going so fast. It was really unusable, but using a drive belt was just solved the problem beautifully. It's absolutely silent. Another day, another really complicated thing. This time I'm trying to figure out, with my original drawings, how to make this. This is what I was based on, that original automaton, the French one, and I thought it would look really nice as a sort of centrepiece. And this is obviously the Is It Time for Tea machine. I'm trying to figure out how to make this. Not many notes, needless to say, but I think I have now. So I'll get all the bits cut out. It does look rather nice, doesn't it? I've actually got that fixed to the top of it. So my next job, basically, because I've got the chain pulling thing round here, is to get this front bit made up, and then I can work out how to mount that and how the chain needs to go to it using some of these lovely grooved bearings and things. So that's the next step. And empty the dishwasher as well whilst it's being cut out. The fun never ends. It's a couple of days later and I'm grabbing a little bit of work time in the morning before I have to collapse for the afternoon's rest with this wretched viral thing. Anyway, mustn't grumble. I've got this front bit on, which is exciting, and the side, the motor, and now I need to put one of these bearings, one of those bearings, to line up the chain. And the way I do it, which works really nicely, is just to get some 3mm rod resting across the top of that one in line, and some rod lying across the top there, and that tells me exactly, can't see for the light, it's exactly where the bearing needs to go, so then I can draw that out and make some sort of support for it.